Previously on Chaos Head Noah.
Oi.
Oi! Oh shit, was she talking to me? Fuck. Was she gonna threaten me and take all my money? She definitely looks like she could. Or take me to the Dokyun hangout spot and have me lynched just because she didn't like my face? Or worse? Nah, that's a fate that's too kind for you. Give me a fucking break. What had I ever done to deserve this? I looked toward girl B. She was staring at me.
お前、誰だ?
That's my line. Did she just ask me that? I'm Nishijo Takumi. But this was the first time I ever spoken to her, so obviously she wouldn't know that. So I was right. Whatever she wants from me, it can't be good.
すいません。
I quickly bowed to avoid looking girl B in the face, then ran away as fast as I could.
逃げるの?
From behind me, right by my ear, I heard a whisper that crushed any emotion I had left. With a shiver, I slowly turned around. She was staring at me. There was no longer any color left in those eyes of hers.
逃がさないよ。騙してたことは謝るけど、お互い様だし。あなただって隠してたことあるよね。
I'm hiding things? Only a single thing crossed my mind. Somehow she knew that I had witnessed that staking murder. She knew that I had seen the perpetrator. And that was most likely why she tried to get close to me. I knew she was good. Too good. She'd had me wrapped around her little finger. Everything she told me was a lie.
やっぱり知ってるの。知ってるんでしょ。知ってるに決まってる。知らないなんて言わせない。知ってなくちゃおかしい。知ってるよね。知ってるよね。
I frantically shook my head in denial. A disgusting cold sweat broke out on my brow. All I could do was wipe it away, as I kept shaking my head as hard as I could.
これ、あなたの部屋にあったのよ。あなたの部屋、ベッドの下、床に落ちてた。落ちてたの。落としたよね。それとも捨てた。とにかく落ちてた。落ちてたの。
Who the hell was this girl? When the fuck had she searched my room? Was it the day we first met? When my leg got injured and she came all the way to my room with me? She'd seen my Sarah figures and her face lit up all cute like a fucking Christmas tree?
この杭、開国製のすごく珍しい杭なのよ。それと、ニュージェネ第3の事件で使われた杭と同じ。同じなの。同じよね。同じなのは間違いない。同じよ。遺体を壁に貼り付けにした杭と同じ。ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。そこから分かったことは。
For just a moment, Yua hesitated. Then she stared straight at me, before breaking the cold, unfeeling truth to me.
あなた一人の自作自演。
What? Don't look at me.
将軍は
Don't look at me.
あなた自身。
She slowly closed the gap between her and the curtain then, instead of opening it normally. She slashed it open with the knife. And when she peeked through the newly opened gap, he was lying on the bed. just like she expected him to be. I found you. Now that she had seen him, she could not contain herself any longer. She pushed her way through the curtain, and now she stood right by the bed. He was sleeping with a slightly pained expression on his face. She combed her fingers through his hair, stroking it ever so gently. He did not awaken. Gripping a knife with both hands, with an underhanded grip, she raised her arms high above. Her target was simple. His heart. The single thrust. Just like the doctor before you. I'll put you to rest. I sprang up, only to find myself on the bed like before. My heart was pounding like crazy. I checked my chest. There was no wound anywhere. Nor was there any blood. I was unharmed. I examined my surroundings. The curtain was closed, and it definitely had been slashed open with a kitchen knife. I carefully placed my hand on the curtain, and when I opened it, I saw the doctor, Nazuki-san, collapse on the floor, covered in blood. When that delusion appeared in my mind, I began to tremble all over again.
夢だよな。
But I couldn't work up the courage to open the curtain. What if there was a sea of blood right past it? What if the demon girl was standing there holding a knife? The terror of those thoughts completely incapacitated me. Then, right at that moment, the curtain opened from the outside. I couldn't help but scream, and I tumbled off the bed.
大丈夫ですか？お薬が出てますから。
薬
They are prescribing me something? Dr. Takashina never said anything about that.
ええ、先生の指示で。弱い精神安定剤です。ぐっすり眠れるようになるし、副作用などもありませんよ。
Oh, wonderful. Thoughtful as ever, Dr. Takashina. And yet, when I realized I would have to wait in that lobby again, my mood was immediately sent spiraling. And so it continues. Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Chaos Head Noah. So, we're not really any closer to figuring out just what the deal is between ourselves and Shogun, I would say. We don't seem to have a sleepwalking thing, and, well, as I was saying in the last episode, there's no way sleepwalking could be the cause of that huge time discrepancy. So, the only thing I'm still of the opinion that the only thing that I can think of that could cause such a phenomenon to happen, even though we should have already long since been present for the events where Shogun should have been present at a computer sending information to our past selves. The only reason we haven't seen ourselves doing anything like that is because I'm suspecting that Shogun is not so much from a point later in time, but rather from an alternate timeline that is trying to warn us of events that could happen in our universe. It's the only thing that makes sense to me right now, given what little information I have. Which raises even more questions, like, if that's indeed what's going on here, what's causing that particular phenomenon to happen, number one. And number two, what does it mean for us? Anyway, I wonder what Yu is up to. By the time I'd gone back to Shibuya, it was already evening. The hospital was technically in Shibuya Ward, but since Yoyogi was the closest station to it, commuting via train was the fastest. But the Yamanote line had been as crowded as ever, and despite only being 2 stops long, the trip back still made me incredibly tired. Riding the train any farther would have been a pain in the ass, so I decided to get off at Shibuya Station and make my way back to base from there. Even then, there were still tons of people outside the station. I despised crowds. They made my head spin. Not wanting to stay much longer, I tried to speed walk out of the scrambled crossings. But even walking straight was nigh impossible. Stumbling even slightly caused people from both behind and in front to bump into me. What's more, a bunch of people handing out pocket tissue packs blocked the way, practically forcing everyone who passed by to take them. I guess there's really no harm in having some extra tissues handy, so I would just deal with it. Fed up with everything, I ignored the first person handing them out, but took some off the second because at least she was a cute grill. Was she a propane grill by any chance? Or charcoal? And yes, I know what he's talking about when he says grill. I'm just making a stupid joke. I was so sick and tired of these people handing out tissue packs and shit to push their products. Didn't they have anything better to do than stand right in the middle of the road? Unfortunately, that's how they make their moolah, my man. Well, whatever. It was free, so might as well take it. Inside the tissue pack I took was a red flyer, and there was a paragraph's worth of shit written on top of it with white ink. Talk about ostentatious. Like, holy shit. Now, there's a big word I wasn't expecting to hear come out of your mouth. You hadn't exactly missed something with that color scheme. As I walked along, I gave it a quick skim. What do we have here? Type B blood is in short supply. Currently, Shibuya Ward is suffering from severely short supply of type blood. This has only continued to worsen, and we've been struggling to secure the proper quantities for blood in those new transfusions. Worst case scenario. Shit, what was the shortcut for the... Forgetting what the keyboard shortcut was for getting rid of the text box. Son of a bitch. And backlog. What did that say? It was a blood donation flyer. As I read it, I thought back to the form I filled out in the hospital. Okay, quick config. Yeah, this totally helps. That's exactly what I need right now. Just icons for a controller rather than... Crap. I'm afraid to touch the keyboard because I'm worried I'll hit a skip button or something if I do. There we go. I didn't have any memory of filling out something like that 4 years ago. Maybe the way they examined patients had changed recently. Even then, though, something felt oddly familiar about the test. Deja vu. I've been getting hit by it all the time recently. Having my mind and body not function the way I wanted them to, the sense of dissonance, was an incredibly uncomfortable feeling. So in order to ascertain the true cause behind the deja vu, I tried flipping back through the pages of my memories. I thought back when Mom had taken me to the hospital about once a week. I kept my mouth shut at all times, and only expressed myself via nodding or shaking my head. At first, I'd been taken to a perfectly ordinary examination room, but since I showed no signs of improvement, I started going to a different room before long. The room had essentially been a counseling room, which meant it put the patient's relaxation first and foremost. In other words, there were sofas and plushies and whatnot located all throughout the room. Dr. Takishina had taken a very patient approach to treating me, all while refusing to blame my situation on anyone. He alone caught on to how I was merely choosing not to speak, rather than having the inability to do so. Meanwhile, my mom would always talk to me in an unnaturally cheery voice. Every time I'd gone to the hospital, the doctor would always welcome me with a refreshing smile. The nurses also treated me with all the love and care they could. And I had a feeling that there had always been one more person in the room. Who? Oh, I see Shady in the background over there. What's your name, Shady? Do you got a name? A code name, maybe? A number? Something? Which company do you work for? Right. There had been a man in a black suit. One that felt fairly out of place in a hospital. As I've been doing my best not to speak, I never asked about him. I didn't know who the hell he was the entire time he was there. He didn't feel like a doctor. He only stood all alone at a fair distance away from everyone else, all while gazing out the window. Hey, Mommy, Daddy, do you by chance know this man in black? I had dubbed him Mr. Nozomi in my head, though that wasn't his actual name or anything.
NOZOMI.
The man in the suit always had a badge on his chest, no matter the situation. And on top of that, the badge was the word Nozomi. It looked like the logo to me, though it probably wasn't a name tag. Oh, I knew why it was bothering me now. That test from before also had the Nozomi logo printed on it. Now that you mention it, you're right. I had a hunch that I'd seen it somewhere before, and now I finally remembered exactly where. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. That aside, what was Nozomi anyway? I was pretty sure it was the name of a business. Well, you got a perfectly working computer at home. Why not Google it?
のぞみさんっていう美人女社長が設立したカウンターテロ組織とか、漫画みたいだ。
You wish. I swear, that building always just looks so decrepit to me for some reason. Oh, I'm sorry, correction, not Google. Delude. You got to delude the information into your brain. My apologies. When I'd arrived at my base, I'd gone straight to look up Nozomi online. However, there were so many results that I couldn't manage to pin down anything specific. Well, let's go with a more normal theory first. That Nozomi guy could have been from the company that made the test, and he was just at the hospital in order to sell them or something. Sell them. More like supervise. The hospital had then adopted a test recently, and they decided to have me fill one out today. Nah, I doubted that. I never heard of some rando attending a patient's examination like that. It would be a severe violation of, God damn it, what was it called? OPA? I used to know the damn term name off the top of my head here. It's basically where the whole concept of doctor-patient confidentiality comes from. Son of a bitch. You my stupid ass memory. So, who the hell was that Mr. NOZOMI guy? Memories kept pulling at my mind, but I was fed up with it at that point. Either way, the reason behind my deja vu was now clear. I decided that I'd ask Dr. Takashina about my memory issues next week. But until then, I was going to stay cooped up in my room without bothering with school. There's no way in hell I'd go to a school where people are trying to hurt me. In all honesty, I really don't want to screw up at the minimum attendance chart I'd so carefully constructed, but it wasn't worth getting myself killed over. You know, thinking about it now, I gotta wonder if that man in the black suit was indeed real, and, well, I got no reason to really assume at this point that he isn't, and he was someone that was always frequently attending our visits to the hospital. Then did that doctor really not recognize us? Or did he just simply pretend to not know who we were? I would think that if I were a doctor and I would always get a certain patient in, I would have this man in black constantly following them. Probably part of some big company that I may or may not be directly affiliated with. That patient would probably stick out into my mind somewhat, even if I don't regularly see them. So I wonder. I gave up on my NOZOMI search and went to look for any interesting threads on @channel. New Gen News Bearer. Group Divide. Man-Child. Crew Affixation. To be continued. The news board was almost completely filled with New Gen threads. Even the ESO board had threads like, let's try and replicate New Gen crimes in ESO. And to be honest, I was beyond sick and tired of the whole thing. It's a bit morbid. Diving back into ESO, I found Grimm. The @channel board is super fucking boring recently. They really won't shut the fuck up about New Gen. Well, it's the biggest thing of note recently. Whenever a new incident like this happens, people always freak the fuck out about it. It's shitstorm incarnate. Anyway, I saw a prop up there. What was that? A tip? Shitstorm. Net slang. A state of furious, chaotic excitement or activity on an @channel thread. They still haven't caught the culprit. I mean, you and I both know the police are incompetent. LOL. There's tons of idiots all over the web painting the culprit as some moe hot chick. LOL. Well, if that thing we saw in the alleyway is any indication, they're not wrong. That demon girl. And hello, I notice the background right there clipping a little bit right above our player character. I bet that's probably being caused by the player sprite, some kind of bug in the transparency effect. The desolate eyes of the girl I'd seen at the crucifixion murder scene flashed through my mind, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. As much as I didn't want to remember, that ghastly memory would come back any time I let my guard down. Wait. I'd seen the culprit's face. I know who they were. Should I report it to police? Probably. But I didn't want to get involved. Well, you're too late for that. And then there's also the whole thing with Yua. Demon Girl. Is there already an offshoot of the perp like that? That might be taking a bit too far, to be honest. New way. These new gen's cases are seriously interesting, dude. I've joined the free power new gen community. New gen community? Do I need to worry about your mental state, buddy? Like, really worry about it? You're not planning to skewer somebody, are you? You're getting way into this. Everyone but you and Sisen from our guild has joined. Oh god, was he serious? Now I wouldn't be able to hop on and chat with my guild anymore. New gen's some weird shit, man. Gives me the chills. I knew you were to gory stuff, Grim, but... Don't tell me you're the type that looks for artistic merit in murder cases. True. The crucifixion corpse could easily have been mistaken for modern art. So it'd be fair to say that it was artistic in some sense. Mistaken for modern art by whom? Nah, the only thing you should be seeking here is how lewd it is. It's like the ultimate form of BDSM. What, the murders? This guy's hopeless. I better do something quick. You'll get it once you leave behind your virginhood, Nineheart Tan. What, did you screw a corpse or something? You lowly bastard. Are you saying you're not a virgin? I bet he's a virgin. You damn traitor! Oars! Back on topic, though. The site pulling all the info together is filled to the brim, so you really ought to take a look. Ugh. I really didn't want to. Look. I was scared to. I wanted to escape the reality in which I'd witnessed the scene of the crime. That's why I've been intently avoiding all info related to New Gen ever since then. I'm sure I've told you this before, but the thing with reality is you can try to run away from it all you like, but sooner or later it's going to come knocking, and it's going to come knocking hard. The more you resist it, whether you want it to or not. Reality is, well, like your kid's sister in a way. Funny and thinking about it now. Sooner or later, your kid's sister is going to come knocking to check that you're alive. The longer and longer that you ignore her and the rest of the family. Reality is just something that you gotta learn to face every so often. Otherwise, well, guess what? It's gonna go out its way to come face you with a vengeance. Just gotta learn to deal with it. Sooner or later. Poor bastard. I wanted to fool myself into believing that the gruesome scene I'd seen had been just a delusion. But I was basically a god in ESO. And guess what? The humans don't care about you, oh god, sir. They care about New Gen. You're a dead god now. Not just someone strong, but someone who knew all. Not to mention I was the guild leader. It'd be beyond embarrassing if the organizer of the group couldn't keep up with the latest topics. I had to make sure that didn't happen. So face reality, my friend. I clicked the link to the site Grimm had sent me. The top of the site had the title All Things New Gen written in big letters, right in the center of the page. Wiki! I know what a wiki is. Do you know what a wiki is, oh viewer? Well, I guess you're going to find out. An online system for the creation and compilation of hypertext documents on a web server. Yep. And hello, I see there's a couple of things here I missed. Oars. An ideograph depicting a person on all fours, depressed. O is the head, R is the arms, and Z is the legs. Oh, I see it now. Typically used to express despair, dejection, or frustration. No set way to pronounce it, and as such, people may pronounce it as orts, ors, or orse. Well, I'm an ors guy. You've heard it here. And diagnostic results. You are extremely delusional. I agree. You are likely subjected to nothing but painful things in your everyday life. Also agree. I can understand why you would want to avert your eyes from such a reality. However, you are not yet ready to fully surrender yourself to these delusions, for you still believe that you will someday be able to return to reality and live a fulfilling life. I've seen some evidence of it, faint as it may be, I think. Do you ever find it difficult to distinguish between delusions and reality? This is not a good position to be in, as it's dangerous for your delusions to affect reality. The time for you to make a decision is drawing near. Will you gather your resolve and devote yourself to your delusions? Or will you strive for the faint wisp of hope that you may return to reality? Who's speaking to me? Somebody's speaking to me through this tip. Is this some kind of weird fourth wall break? A word from Remy. From this point forward, I don't want you to have any more delusions. I know all too well that reality's full of pain, but that's exactly what makes all the good, happy moments so irreplaceable. So please, come back. Come back to reality. Okay? A word from Kozue. Sees. To go fully delusional? Well, first, try not to talk to anybody at all. And then... that's it. If you do that, then you'll have no choice but to have a whole bunches of delusions. Who's Remy? Another one of my waifus? So that was a very, very interesting tip. Not gonna lie. Wasn't expecting all that. It felt like somebody was either talking to me or talking to Takuna. I wonder if I'm going to see more tips like this in the future. And if they'll get more direct with me as time goes on. This type of website was basically like a wiki. It was open to the public, and anyone could enter info related to a particular topic. In the case of this New Gen site, loads of people entered info concerning New Gen, and the site updated as they did. Sites like it tend to suffer from unreliable info being mixed in, as well as its fair share of vandalism from trolls, but they could still be pretty useful for getting a quick overview of an incident. Many links were pasted all over the page. I promptly clicked on the link that read, Current Timeline. My heart raced. Just seeing the site was making me nervous. My palms were slick with sweat. The earthquake of 2 months ago. So this all started with an earthquake? Brutal, bizarre serial murders, 3 in total. Corpse affixed to a concrete wall. Witnesses claim they heard nails hammered around crime scene. Are the crimes all being committed by different people? Cruise up fiction, man-child, group divive. Victim was a 56-year-old university professor. You mean the corpse to the wall? That was a university professor? That's the link I would personally click right there, is who the victim was. That in itself could be a huge clue to what might be going on here. You never know. The first incident, dubbed the group dive, was the suicide of 5 high schoolers that had jumped to their deaths. It happened in the dead of night on September 7th, which was about a month ago at this point. The building they jumped off of was Cornelius Tower, which was located in Shibuya. They dove off the rooftop helipad. Of course, all 5 had died instantly. According to the autopsies, the 5 all had foreign pieces of flesh under their fingernails, along with various scratch marks on their hands. Based on that, it was surmised that the 5 had been holding hands as they jumped, for one reason or another. There was no suicide note of any form on the rooftop. Snake. A person online, one of those people acting like Snake, had actually gone to Cornelius Tower themselves and reported that the door to the roof had a sign on it saying no entry to unauthorized personnel, and that it was locked practically 24/7. So how the hell did they get up there then? Snake!
That guy always keeps you waiting.
The name of the protagonist of a certain video game who's a professional in covert operations. It is often referred to on the internet when an ordinary person is conducting anonymous or secret investigations. For example, during an operation, one of these individuals might say, "This is Snake. I've infiltrated the building." I must have been away from that particular corner of the internet when this must have been a popular thing, because I don't remember anything like this ever occurring in the early 2000s or anything like that. And of course, when I look over to the bookmark section over on the right here, the first thing I notice is a Futanari Daisuke thing. But anyway, let's see what else you got here. Nothing terribly interesting. Just like you. Got it. Okay, I already read this. Naturally, the door had been locked at the time of the incident, and the key was not found among the belongings of the deceased. Essentially, the rooftop helipad had effectively been a locked room, and the method the 5 had used to enter was completely unknown. There was a very high chance that someone other than the 5 had been present at the scene of the incident. Where the hell did I get bush? The second incident, dubbed the man-child murder case, had occurred 12 days after the first incident, placing it on September 19th. Early in the morning, a university student on their way home from a karaoke session had discovered a collapsed man covered in blood by the Shibuya Station underpass. The victim had been a university student residing in Shibuya Ward, a 21-year-old named Konoe Chizuo. He was already dead when he was discovered, but his abdomen had an unnatural, very large swelling. According to the autopsy, someone had performed an abdominal incision on the man, stuffed a newly born fetus inside the man's stomach, then stitched it back up. Moreover, a DNA test confirmed that the fetus had no blood relation to the victim. The victim was a bachelor and had no relations with any women. It was only online speculation, but it was assumed that the 32-week-old fetus had been removed from its mother's body via C-section. So, whoever committed this murder probably had access to a hospital and the biohazardous waste section where this could have taken place. Either that or an abortion clinic, since they specialize in that sort of thing. Either way, somebody who has access to such a thing, either that or an even worse possibility, there is a mother somewhere who literally had their unborn child taken from them without their consent, outside of a medical facility by a crazy person. However, the mother's identity, current whereabouts, and even whether or not she was alive was completely unknown. It was possible that the police had already discovered her whereabouts, but if they had, nothing had been publicly revealed. I averted my eyes from the monitor to keep myself from throwing up. Jesus Christ, talk about nauseating. The culprit was completely insane. And maybe, just maybe, these ghastly murders have been carried out by that girl. Japan is over! Oh no. You hear that, guys? Japan is over. The apocalypse has started! The land of the rising sun is no more! Hang on to your manga and anime collection. It might be our resources for that stuff is about to get finite. In all due seriousness, though, Japan's not going to be over. Only us, because that's what we cut, and our immediate surroundings, because that's what I saw in the opening cinematic. There's no way that could be all of Japan, could it? Right? I stared at Saratan in an attempt to bleach my eyes. And with that, I somehow managed to stabilize my mental state. I considered taking the meds the doctor had given me, but Saratan did the job nonetheless. Anyway, while that might have been necessary to maintain Nineheart's honor, reading all that gory stuff really fucking sucked. Well, I wasn't expecting you to have an actual character sprite. And could you please put on a bra or something? Think of the children, man. Yeah, I guess you're right about that. But for how long, though? Because like I pointed out earlier, sooner or later, reality or little sister will come knocking. And what am I going to do then if I'm in the middle of fapping and I get a visitor? That'd be hell awkward, don't you think? Oh, how wonderful and caring you are, Saratan. Saratan was the only one who would stay by my side. I couldn't ask for a better waifu. Meanwhile, literally every other waifu that you got on your shelves is probably thinking, am I a joke to you? Or rather, that's probably what some dark corner in your mind is probably thinking. I rested my chin on my hands above the table, watching Saratan smile as I took deep breaths. My soul had been healed. I might be able to get through a little more if I kept glancing at her as I read. And so, I decided to put that into practice right away. Come to think of it, why had those two unrelated cases both been slapped with the New Gen label? Apparently, the group dive had initially been treated as a group suicide. But after the man-child incident had occurred, people online reinvestigated it and discovered the unnatural circumstances surrounding the scene of the crime. Rumors then began to appear, saying that the five may have actually been killed, and that the suicide label was merely a cover-up. According to the parents and good friends of the five victims, there was no way it could have been a suicide. Then, the mass media had started making connections between the two incidents, starting with where they occurred, Shibuya. Madness explodes in today's youth, the new generation madness. Sensationalist headlines like that had started popping up everywhere. To my understanding, anyway. Then came the third case, the murder case I'd witnessed, dubbed the Kruger fiction. The site didn't have as much info on this case, likely due to it having only occurred recently. The victim, 56-year-old Ota Hisashi, was a university professor who had been crucified with stakes to a concrete wall of a vacant house. That was all that had been publicly revealed. Many of the neighboring residents had claimed that for over an hour after the time the crime was thought to have occurred, around 8 p.m., they could hear the sound of nails being hammered into something. Even I'd heard the sound. I could hear it even now. A horrible, terrifying sound. On a related note, no connection between the third case and the group dive or the man-child had been discovered yet. But with it being the third abnormal incident to happen in quick succession in Shibuya, the Kruger fiction was naturally treated as another new-gen incident. The police and mass media believed that all the crimes had different culprits, but the predominant opinion online, or rather what most of the net hoped was going on, was that the crimes either shared a single culprit or an organized group of culprits. I am leaning towards the latter interpretation personally. That it's probably a group of culprits, and that pink hair is just only one possible member. There also were many occult-based theories whispered about online, such as that everything had begun with the earthquake from 2 months ago. 2 months ago, an earthquake with seismic intensity of 3 occurred, with Shibuya at its epicenter. Although the scale was fairly minor, there were still 8 fatalities, which became a popular topic of discussion. Come to think of it, it was true that the new-gen cases had begun after that earthquake. Because of that, the new-gen occultists argued that the 8 deaths in the earthquake could be counted as the first new-gen incident, causing a dispute between them and the new-gen mainstreamers. Regardless, the entire situation was abnormal. After all, despite the fact that 3 brutal cases had occurred in quick succession, No clues on any of their culprits had been found, and many online were waiting eagerly for a fourth case. If it wasn't directly connected to it, if I wasn't directly connected to it all, I probably would have joined in on the chaos myself. Posted in a few threads, made a few theories. I could have been waiting excitedly for the fourth incident at this very moment. Damn it. All these assholes were just having the time of their lives, weren't they? Well, as you just admitted to, you'd be... Well, as you just admitted to, you'd be having the time of your life yourself, too, if you weren't already caught up in it. So, does that also make you an asshole? A week had passed since the crucifixion, but neither the demon girl nor the police had made any moves. If they knew that I'd been at the scene of the crime, they would definitely come and question me about it. But there hadn't been any signs of that actually happening. Thank God. It looked like I wasn't going to get dragged into this after all. Are you forgetting Yua?
あなたには予知能力がありますか?
That claim Yua had thrusted at me flashed into my mind.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
Even though I'd finally started to relax, that feeling of despair came flying right back in an instant. The image sent by Shogun, the day it was still on my PC. Yua's claims were no more than delusions she dreamt up. Her deductions were a total stretch, not to mention logically bankrupt. So is everything else about this new-gen crap, man. So, I mean, is this really that much more of a stretch? Considering everything else that's going on? Well, I might have ended up not asking about it in the hospital today. The idea of me doing things without remembering them was completely absurd. Utterly impossible. I mean, nothing like that has ever happened to me before. So the gory image was obviously faked. You keep telling yourself that. Yeah, good luck with that. But it's so disgusting. I really don't want to look at more than I already have. Of course. She was exactly right. You had talked to me as if I were the culprit behind the crucifixion, but that wasn't true at all. I mean, I'd seen the culprit's face. As if I'd let Yua put the blame on me after that. So, with a gulp, I double-clicked on the folder where the images were cached. It was the first time in 3 days that Ban Yasuji had set foot in the Shibuya police station conference room. Ooh, a perspective flip. The investigation meeting for the Maru Yamacho crucifixion homicide case had already begun, and Ban was greeted with universal gazes of displeasure for his tardiness. Ban forced a polite smile before bending down to sit. He supposed that it was not quite the right time to reveal that he'd been cooped up in the bathroom with diarrhea. Poor bastard. The Maru Yamacho crucifixion homicide case had been assigned to the Shibuya police station on the morning after the incident. As they were lacking in manpower due to Cornelius Tower mass suicide case, and the Shibuya Station undergrad and fetus homicide case, even the third-rate assistant inspector, Ban, whom the Metropolitan Police Department's investigation division were practically begging to retire, had been called in by the main office. Moreover, as all the incidents had occurred within the Shibuya police station's jurisdiction, it was an unusual situation in which a single jurisdictional station was utilizing 3 special investigation teams. Because of this, operations were made quite difficult, with the 3 investigation teams having access to only one large conference room that they had to alternate between. The mass media was hailing it all as one large case known as New Gen, and there were rumors that the police would combine the 3 investigation teams in order to make a New Gen investigation division, thus solving the issue of manpower. All the detectives found this prospect completely asinine, regarding it as nothing more than an absolute joke.
警部補、君の報告を。
Band Superior, Inspector Matsunaga, who was in charge of the investigation team, called out to Ban with a piercing gaze. But Ban did not notice this. He simply continued to cool himself down with a handheld fan as he took a moment to recuperate.
警部補、バン警部補、聞いているのか？
呼ばれてるっすよ。バンさんの報告待ちなんすから。ちょっと。
The whispers of Ban's partner, a rookie named Suwa, finally got him to realize he was being called.
すんません。報告は諏訪から。
自分っすか？
俺がいなくても報告しとけって言っといたろうが。早くしろ。
You lazy prick. Suwa sighed as his superior jabbed him in the elbow, then stood straight up and tall.
犯行現場近くの監視カメラの解析がようやく出たっす。出ました。犯行時間に不審な人物が映ってました。
Murmurs echoed throughout the conference room. The relaxed atmosphere from before had been turned on its head. The other detectives began to take frantic notes in order to not miss a single word of Suwa's report. Considering the situation, it was no surprise they were so frantic about it. After all, 3 horrific cases had occurred within their jurisdiction in the span of a single month. Only one of which was not ruled as a homicide as of yet. Their strong determination to find a culprit even in the face of their reputations was only natural.
プロジェクターに映像を出します。
As per the instructions Ban had given him in advance, Suwa had the projector display the footage on the projector screen. The projector shone an image of the confined, filthy backway alleyway of Murayamacho. It was night, and there were few streetlights present, so virtually nothing was visible. I just realized something. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking. I was worrying about the possibility of being interrogated by the police for being near the crime scene of where the Krug fiction case took place. And here the police are reviewing footage of what looks to me could be the alley, the path that could lead to that particular alleyway. How many of you want to bet money that we're going to show up on these cameras and the police is going to come knocking on our shipping container before long? The projector showed an image of the confined, filthy back alley. Oh wait, I just read this.
犯行現場から約50メートル離れたところにあるコインパーキングの監視カメラです。
The parking lot was only big enough to fit 2 vehicles. It was a tiny plot of land interspersed between 2 buildings, and it was constructed without any real care as well. The scene of the crime was not visible in the footage. Not even the path leading to it could be seen. All displayed was the road that was one farther away from the crime scene. The video had no sound. The time the video had been recorded was graciously displayed in the bottom right corner on the screen. 9:34 p.m.
犯行現場近隣の住民の証言により、21時過ぎから21時半頃まで釘を打ちつける音がしていたというのはご承知の通りだと思いますが。
Wait a minute, I thought what we read on the web here said it started around 8 o'clock.
この映像は21時34分。つまりまさに犯行時間直後ということになります。不審人物が映っているのは21時34分53秒からおよそ6秒間です。駐車場の前の道を奥から手前へと走り抜けていきます。
Yep, there we are. Called it. Immediately following Sua's explanation, a silhouette appeared on the footage. They seemed to be in a great hurry, and ran from the back of the screen to the front. As the resolution was quite poor, not even their gender could be ascertained at a glance. But Ban had already gone to the crime laboratory to analyze that very point.
科捜研で解析した結果、映っている人物は男。年齢は10代後半から20代とのことっす。です。人相の判別までは無理でした。服装がかなり特徴的ですが、これは小島にある私立水明学園の男子制服と分かりました。それと右手に注目してもらいたいんですが。
The image enlarged on the right hand of the suspicious individual. It appeared to be grasping something. Ah, shit, it's the stake.
スローで再生するとわかるが、走りながら腕を振っている際、この握りしめている何かが駐車場の照明に反射して光を放ってるんだな、これが。
Now at the good part, Ben took over Sua's explanation.
形状からして犯行に使われた十字架型の杭である可能性がある。
Well, there is no chance in hell that we're not going to get a visit from the good old detectives now. So, brace yourself, Mr. Reality Runner. That's a stupid name. Reality Denier. There we go. That's better. Brace yourself, Reality Denier, because you're about to be grilled. The crucifixion culprit may be a high schooler. The proposition was fairly shocking to them. After all, it meant that the New Gen Madness moniker that the mass media had been pushing could actually become a reality.
最も犯人に近い人物がこの少年だということか。
まあ、そういうことになりますね。
Ben stroked the stubble on his jaw. It was a habit of his. Whenever he felt one step closer to cornering a culprit, he would always reach for that satisfying scraping sensation.
以上です。
Sua took a deep breath and sat down.
ひどいっすよ先輩。美味しいところ持ってって。
Ignoring Sua's grumbling, Ben once again burned the image of the high school boy into his mind. I just also thought of something else. The fact that we live alone on the roof of a building in a shipping container filled to the brim with all kinds of otaku paraphernalia. I wonder if these detectives would also use that aspect of our character against us in their investigation. Maybe to paint us as unhinged. Well, just from looking at our living conditions, I mean. I don't see them not linking I don't see them not finding some kind of link between their theory of us being the murderer, a possible murderer, and, well, our living arrangements.
ようやく尻尾を出したんだ。そいつを掴んで離さねえようにしないとな。
Oh shit, I just also realized something else. The minute that they get get access to your computer, and they look through your cache and they see the new gen pictures that you got, they're gonna ask questions about that. And if you tell them anything about Shogun, well, that's just gonna put you in an even deeper hole. Yeah, this is not good. I think we're about to end up taking the fall for some of these murders here if we're not careful. Sure enough, the image Shogun had sent was in my cache folder. 168491-JPEG was its name. Obviously, a part of me was still hesitant to even look at it. I mean, it was a pretty fucking nasty image. Grotesque as all hell, too. Wouldn't it just be a real funny coinkydink if these detectives show up right as we are firmly examining these images, and they see them right smack there on your monitor? That would be the pits. I was sure just looking at it would throw me right back to the scene of the crucifixion, where that violent scene had taken place right in front of me. But even then, I need to expose you as flawed logic, and therefore guarantee my own safety and innocence. Thankfully, since Saratan was there for me, I could handle a little bit of gore. Mustering all the courage I had, I double-clicked the file. God, it was so gory. But compared to the crucifixion scene I'd seen in person, it wasn't quite as bad. Telling myself that the image had to be fake, I was just barely able to stomach it. When I first received the image, I closed it immediately after looking at it once. I hadn't inspected it thoroughly. This time, holding back the urge to vomit, I decided to examine the image in excruciating detail. I didn't know much about how to tell whether a picture was fake or not, but taking a look at the shadows, seeing if there was anything off about the surrounding area, and other stuff like that should probably be enough. The only possibility I had in mind was that the photo had been taken in advance, and the crucifixion corpse had been put on top of it using CGI. And then, the day after Shogun had sent the picture to me, they'd executed the crime exactly as they'd edited in the image. Thanks to the poor resolution, how dark the image was, I could only really see the stakes, leaving the identity of the victim unclear. Light was only hitting the area surrounding the corpse, yet something about the image was just begging me to look at the crucifixion itself. I felt like that was the intent of the person who'd made it. I mean, come on. Focusing that much light around the corpse was kind of overkill, don't you think? Well, it wasn't like I'd been paying close attention to the actual crime scene, so I couldn't really jump to conclusions. In the picture, the demon girl wasn't standing in front of the crucified corpse. But when I opened my eyes wide and looked even closer, I noticed a silhouette in a dark spot on the left side of the image. think I see something. I'd almost completely missed it. Due to the low res of the image, the shadow the figure stood in blended perfectly into the surrounding scenery. You could easily miss it if you weren't paying close attention. Obviously the image was fake, but what if the person who'd taken the photo had accidentally left themselves in it? If they had, it was possible that they'd forgotten to edit themselves out when they tampered with the image. It looked like they were wearing a sume uniform. In that case, it had to be the demon girl. She'd been wearing one at the time of the crime, after all. But when I took a closer look, I noticed that the figure's hair was actually pretty short. The demon girl had long hair, like Yua. Alright then, time for some computer magic. I needed the details here. I opened up some image processing software and dragged the image in. Then with a big gulp, I selected the levels option in the adjustments menu and brightened the once darkened corners of the image.
Eh?
It's us. Well, I'd say Yua's theory on the nature of this image was right on the money, if you ask me. Precognition could literally be the only explanation for what we're seeing here. What? The hell?
Nandaこれ
Pictured on the screen. Pictured on the screen was unmistakably.
奥だ
But wait a minute. Where's the pink-haired girl then? Why isn't she in the image? How is it me? It didn't make any sense. I never even been there before September 29th. It was fake. It had to be fake. I couldn't find any bit of proof that it was, but it absolutely had to be. Nothing made sense otherwise. I mean, Shogun had sent the image on the 28th, and the Kruka fiction murder case had occurred on the 29th. If the image was what happened on the 29th, then that would mean it was a picture taken from the future.
あなたには予知能力がありますか？
うるさいそんなはずはないんだ
I kicked the plastic ball at my feet and closed the paint program. I checked the file's properties to see when it was made, and then I lost all words. The timestamp was the 28th. But that was the least of my worries now. In the comments section of the properties menu was a single inconspicuous sentence. A sentence my eyes couldn't look away from. I slammed my hands on the keyboard before shoving it to the edge of my desk. I clutched my head.
セーラ助けて
I could barely hold back my tears. What the hell had I done to deserve a whole week of nothing but more and more insane bullshit? Why was I the only one that had to deal with this shit? Hang on a second. If they had somehow managed to get a photo of me, then they'd edit it into the image of the crime scene. That would either mean Shogun had taken a photo of me without my consent, or that he somehow obtained my photo from another source. A photo of you running in a clear panic? When could that? When could he have taken something like that? How often do you run from something in a panic? Especially with how you live your life. And considering how he'd suddenly entered the chat room and started talking to me right after Grimm had left, he had likely been aiming for me and me alone from the very start. Shogun might very well have discovered my real identity. If that was true, then Shogun, the demon girl, anyone could raid my base at any moment, and then I'd be abducted. I felt a chill in the nape of my neck. It was the gaze again. There was something there, watching me. Don't look at me. Did you really think I'd turn around? I knew the rules of the game better than anyone. That it'll take more than that to make me turn around, game. Fear sent goosebumps all over my body. I felt a strong urge to check that the door was locked. But instead of doing that, I just continued to stare at my monitor, as I was way too stubborn to let myself lose. Unable to calm down, I opened my default word processor and wrote down everything on my mind. Demon girl, cold-blooded murderer, has precognitive powers. No, that's you. Shogun, demon girl's underling. No, that's you. Yua, Shogun's underling. I don't think she needs to be anybody's underling. That has to be it. As I stared fearfully at the word demon, I began to wonder if the girl at the crime scene was actually a real demon. I mean, come on. She couldn't be human by any means. If she was a demon, she might actually be able to see the future. And if she could see the future, projecting a scene from the future onto a picture via psychic photography would be child's play. It would line up perfectly with how she'd somehow managed to carry out the gruesome Kruka fiction all her own. She then gotten her underling Shogun to send the image to me, a person who she knew would end up accidentally witnessing the crime scene. You have any idea the sheer series of... No. You can't manipulate coincidence at the level that you're suggesting. Especially in such a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Tacit way, where there's barely any interaction between Shogun's so-called underlings and you, and them steering you along that path. Like, no. Come on, man. No. I didn't know why she'd done that. Maybe it was a threat. This'll be you next if you tell anyone what you saw. Or maybe it was a death sentence. You're next. And if that really was what it meant, then...
勝てるわけがない。僕は奴らにいつ殺されてもおかしくないんだ。
Well, good luck sleeping tonight, then. Ingola Lirva? Lirva? Going by the makeup, I'm going to assume maybe they're a punk rock band or something. Kusunoki Yua faced a PC in her room. Her profile gravely serious, she swiftly read through the information displayed on the monitor. Before long, Yua let out a small sigh and released her hand from the mouse. Glancing at a piece of paper sitting within reach of her. It was the very same paper she had put for Nishijo Takumi the day before. the printout of the chat between Neidhart and Shogun.
西条くん。
Yua muttered a single name. The view of Takumi sitting alone on that Shoto Park bench appeared in her mind, before she quickly shook her head to drown it out. Suddenly, she looked behind herself in surprise.
今、誰かに見られていたような。
Hello. Her gaze stopped upon a large stuffed Jero froggy enshrined on her bed. Wondering if it had just been her imagination, she tilted her head in puzzlement. Then, she slowly rose to her feet, walked over to her bed, and fell onto it head first. The sheets smelled of the sun. The sun has a smell? No, what you're smelling is just the fabrics within your blankets being heated up from the sun. That's what you're smelling. It seemed that her mother had kindly dried the futon earlier today. Yua buried her face in that relieving scent, her gaze wandering about vacantly. Her room was very neat and orderly, placing her meticulous personality on full display. This especially applied to her large bookshelf, which was rather incongruous for a room size at around 13 square meters. It was packed tightly with countless books, hardly leaving any gaps. However, charmingly, the lower half consisted of nothing but complex academic books, computing-related books, and other similar material, contrasting greatly with the upper half, which was filled with shoujo manga and anime DVDs. With another sigh, Yua turned her body face up and stared at the ceiling.
DID.
Dissociative identity disorder? DID, dissociative identity disorder. Nailed it. A condition in which a single person has more than one personality. A personality is defined as a continuous pattern of engaging with one's environment while being aware of the environment and their ego. In other words, a human being's ego presents itself by recognizing the continuous passage of time, confirming that their actions and subsequently received information are consistent, and from there is themself. Personality change in DID is sudden and can be triggered by psychological stress, social stress, as well as various other environmental factors. The disorder is characterized by many cases in which the different personalities do not retain the same memories. The age of onset is in early childhood, but it may not always be clinically apparent. It is easier for the disorder to become chronic should the patient have experienced some form of childhood abuse or psychological trauma. It was first referred to as multiple personality disorder in DSM-3, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 3rd edition, published in 1980, by the American Psychiatric Association. And while the name may be commonplace, it has not been used since the DSM-4, 1994. She muttered the name of the mental illness she had just been researching. The explanation related to it was still displayed on her monitor.
辛いんですね。
Yua hugged a stuffed Jero froggy by her pillow tightly as she thought about Takumi. What, you think Takumi has DID?
でも、私、
However, her expression soon vanished, replaced only by the gritting of her teeth. It hurt to breathe. All I was doing was looking for things up on my PC, yet it hurt to breathe. I could feel my heart pounding harder than it ever had before. And of course, the feeling that something was watching me would not go away. I was still just barely keeping myself from turning around, but I knew I couldn't do it for much longer. I cried out angrily at whatever it was. Surely it wasn't a demon girl, right? Oh God, what if it was? She could be using the second sight, or clairvoyance, or some other demonic power to spy on me. I thought clairvoyance was psychic, not demonic. Clairvoyance. A psychic ability that allows a person to see far beyond normal human perception. With this power, what is normally impossible to see with the naked eye, due to distance, angle, obstructions, etc., can be perceived. The power can manifest in many ways, such as simply enhancing one's natural vision, or seeing distant things in the form of still images. So, clairvoyance could, at least in part, explain the existence of those photos from Shogun, right? Because if Shogun is Takumi, or another version of Takumi, then that would be the only way that Shogun, or in this case Takumi, would be able to see themselves from a third-person perspective, like what we saw in that image. The chills on the back of my neck were gradually growing stronger, to the point where they were getting slightly painful, like jolts of electricity coursing through my body. I was covered from head to toe in sweat. The front of my t-shirt was completely soaked. You lose. Unable to take it anymore, I whipped around in my chair as forcefully as I could. And yet, all I saw was my room, in the same condition as always. I didn't see a single thing that shouldn't have been there. With a yell that was closer to a shriek than anything, I burst up from my chair and went to make sure the door was locked. And much to my relief, it was. I wiped away the sweat on my forehead with my sleeve. Returning to my PC, I focused on the monitor once more. It was still displaying what I had been researching earlier. Precognition. From Wikipedophilia, the Encyclopedia of Useless Knowledge. What kind of wiki calls itself that? Holy shit. Okay, let's see what this is. Noun, to know what is going on to happen in advance, e.g., to foresee an unusual phenomenon, also known as foresight or foreknowledge. To know what is going to happen in the future before it actually happens. The term does not refer to predictions based on experience, information, or statistics, but rather a special sense that transcends humanity's natural perception. It has not been scientifically proven to exist. The way it manifests differs from person to person, with the most common being visions and prophetic dreams. Belief in precognition has existed since ancient times, where shrine maidens were often heralded as carriers. Psychics and fortune tellers are the modern incarnation of this belief, but there are many false actors who enjoy taking advantage of the superstition, claiming that they have precognitive powers and or swindle others. Wait a minute, didn't we already read this in a tips? I think we did, didn't we? Well, sorry for wasting everybody's time. When I was a kid, I truly believed that precognition existed. That psychics existed. And if I was being completely honest, I still did to a degree. Because you yourself are one. That was why my first thought had been that the image from Shogun and the demon girl was a precognitive photograph. A thought which only drove me to look into it all the more. What if, maybe, just maybe, there were tons of psychics all over the world and I just didn't know? Back when I was a kid, when that bus accident happened, I managed something that had been pretty close to precognition. For that reason, I couldn't completely rule out its existence. But no matter how much I searched, all I could find was extremely dubious articles about the occult, voodoo shit, or whatever else. There was absolutely nothing that proved scientifically whether it existed or not.
一つぐらいあってもいいだろう。
Growing increasingly frustrated, I violently tapped away at the keyboard. I couldn't deal with how anxious not having a concrete answer had made me. Was the world really telling me to give up? To wait here, trembling in fear of demons that might or might not come? I couldn't stay sane like that. Of course, I would have vastly preferred to learn that precognition didn't exist, but regardless of what the truth was, I needed to know it. Badly. Pretty much out of options, I decided to take a look at @Channel's occult board. The place was typically home to nothing but total BS noise. Lies and misinformation, mainly. But it actually has some pretty mind-blowing and even useful information scattered on it sometimes. Finding back how frantic I was, I opened up @Channel. And then I clicked on the occult board and gave precognition a search. And when I did...
Huh?
Well, I see a tip there, but let's see what this is first. Precognition and prophecies. Okay, these look like headlines. Or links to forums. Phantasms. What do you guys think of Phantasm's prophetic songs? Clear precognition. A band? Why Phantasm are literal murderers pretending to have precognition. If you've had precognitive dreams, get your ass in this thread. Trolls, get the fuck out. Oh yeah, the tip. What's this? Dude. Net slang. A degradation of the word dude. Originates from the similar slang word dude, but with the O's replaced with zeros. This guy ruined the word dude for me. My search pulled up a surprising number of threads. About 30 of them. Was precognition a hot topic on @Channel at the moment? With a gulp, I checked the thread titles one by one.
Phantasm. FES.
Wait, FES. That's the name of that girl that we saw singing on that bridge, wasn't it? Logging off to hear FES's prophecies, precognition. Most of the threads contain those two key words. In addition, New Gen discussion had also wormed its way in, with lots of unsettling terms like prophetic lyrics and murder being used. Phantasm, FES. The girls singing on the bridge. These things are connected, aren't they? Having never heard of Phantasm before, I went to Google them. Apparently, they were a Shibuya-based, 4-piece gothic punk band that had been doing live concerts recently. They were so popular, in fact, that they were completely dominating the indie music scene, with a female vocalist known only as FES. Anyway, to check whether it was related to precognition or not, I clicked on the thread at the top titled Precognition Prophecies, Phantasm General, New Gen 43, and gave the contents a brief skim. Name. Okay. Calm your tits, everyone. But yeah, let's go to the concert today. Those who do will enjoy FES-sama's Black Mass without letting any of it go to waste. Miss out and you'll be getting the Kruger fiction treatment. I read the lyrics, but it still feels like a stretch. The phrasing is vague as shit. There's no way any are actual prophecies. If I'm wrong, though, have mercy on me, Kruger fiction killer. Calling it precognition or a prophecy or whatever the fuck is taking it, way too far. LMAO. This isn't Nostradamus, so how about we just sit back and enjoy the music for what it is? FES's stuff ain't bad lyrically, but I definitely can feel the new gen connection, to be honest. Alright, rip the composer Ryu. Poor guy's getting no credit. Festan! Festan's lyrics forced me to find the meaning of life. It's a trap! Festards are total shitters, LMAO. Well, to be honest, I want to be insulted by FES-sama and that chill voice of hers while she grinds her boots into my ass. That kind of guy, huh? Over and over until it feels like my eyes are going to fall out of their sockets. It would feel so intoxicating to stop on the edge, right at the last moment, and so erotic, as I wonder if she'll spit on my face or not. No matter what you think, I want Fess to just take a knife and cut open my throat, ending my life. I want to breathe my last as she says to me, "You're an eyesore." Careful what you wish for, you might get it. Festan is my waifu. Take that to the BDSM thread. Also, Fess is my waifu, actually. Stop bumping this shit. Is this what you guys mean by New Gen prophecy stuff? O servant, revealed by the light of the moonlit night, connect to phantasmal paths which lead to this place. Little do they know, their screams will soon turn to silence, and repose shall fall upon us as we link hand in hand within the wind. Sounds almost like a prayer, a religious prayer or something. By the way, I say fuck Phantasm. Like LMAO, their fans are terrifying. You'd think they were all brainwashed. I should probably read some of these tips real quick. Brainwashing. The use of violent methods to forcibly reconstruct someone's thoughts or principles. Brainwashing is performed by applying intense external pressure via physical methods, such as confinement, threats, physical violence, use of drugs, etc., or psychological methods, such as instilling guilt, verbal abuse, etc. It is a method of mental reconstruction that is even stronger than mind control. Yeah, see it all the time these days. Sheep. A derogatory term used to refer to those who blindly follow their leader, or shepherd without question. I think everyone knows this. Black Mass. Also known as Witches' Sabbath, a ritual performed by satanic cults. Although it is referred to as a Sabbath, it is the exact opposite of the masses held by the Catholic Church. When a Black Mass begins, the devil appears in the form of a giant goat. It is said that the witches then kiss the goat's buttocks, drink the blood of infants instead of wine, read aloud grimoires, and perform various impure acts. Well, I didn't know satanic cults were literal ass-kissers. I learned something new today. One theory states that the whole concept is nothing but a delusion crafted and perpetuated by sexually repressed priests and theologians in order to suppress heretics. Well, if you know anything about some of the inner goings-ons of the Catholic Church, you'd be pretty surprised how much sexual repression goes on among the priestly class, and that's all I'll say on that. You could look into it yourself if you really want to know. LOL, now you're gonna get it. Don't leak the lyrics, dumbass. What a brainless troll. Those lyrics. Depending on how you interpreted them, they could be seen as referring to the group dive. They could, couldn't they? And yet, those lyrics had been released 2 months ago, which meant they hadn't been written after the Kruka fiction.
これが予知ってこと？
Kinda looks like it. Could it just be a coincidence? Or could Phantasm be yet another one of the demon girl's underlings? I read the thread in more detail, only to find out that each of the 3 New Gen incidents had all been prophesized by Phantasm's lyrics. However, the lyrics for the songs that supposedly prophesized the man-child and Kruka fiction incidents had not been posted on @channel. Apparently uploading them online was viewed as a taboo of sorts. The philosophy seemed to be, if you really want to know, just go to the concerts and buy an album yourself. Regardless, there were a great number of people online trying to predict the next New Gen case, based on the songs Phantasm had performed thus far. And apparently, ever since New Gen kicked off, Phantasm's albums have been completely selling out. They have been so successful, in fact, that even the mainstream media had picked up on it. Gothic band boasting cult following rises among the youth of Shibuya. News stories like that were popping up all over the place. The one writing the lyric was the head singer, FES. Nobody knew her real name. What if FES was actually the demon girl? If she was, it would explain how she managed to prophesize the incidents literal months before they had occurred. The demon girl was the culprit after all. Well, if you want to confirm it, why not look up a picture of FES? I tried doing an image search, but I couldn't find any good photos of her face. All the pictures were taken by phones during her concerts, and they were so blurry that I couldn't begin to make out her face. Oh, come on. There's got to be an image. There's got to be some kind of promotional image at least. Look harder. I wiped my sweat-drenched forehead with the hem of my shirt. I was frustrated. I was scared. I couldn't believe anything. I didn't even want to see anything. Several emotions swirled within me, suffocating me. My breathing hadn't come close to stabilizing this entire time. But even so, I knew one thing for certain. I needed to see FES's face. With trembling fingers, I typed in Phantasm's name and clicked on their official website. The site was mostly black, decorated only by a text of uniform, deep crimson color. Look at how edgy this is. Holy crap. It was unrelenting in simplicity, and yet it felt so incredibly eerie and strange. There was barely anything on the site at all. Just basic information on their concerts and discography. There wasn't even a single image. There were no profiles on the band members, nor anything on their song lyrics. Interesting.
やっぱり犯人だけあってネットに顔写真が流出しないようにしてるのか。
Wouldn't the police have some information on these guys, though? I mean, if there's this much online speculation about, if there's really this much online speculation about how this band's lyrics seem to predict the murders, and how we got 3 different investigation divisions and all looking into these murders right now, you'd think that they would have something on these guys, right? Talk about thorough. I took a look at their performance schedule and saw that they typically performed about every other week. Their next concert was...
あさって
Well, isn't that just convenient for us? We should go. If I went to it, I'd be able to check whether FES was the demon girl or not. But even if I did find out they were one and the same, what would I even do? Try to hide, knowing you. Report FES to the police. Cry and beg for her to leave me alone. Bring a crucifix and attempt to mock exorcism. Yeah, none of those were going to happen. I was up against a demon. There was no way in hell an otaku freak like me could come out on top. Problem is, if I didn't, I'd die. She'd transform my corpse into her newest art piece, and I'd be posted on the All New Things New Gen site as yet another case.
そんなのやだ。
Then it's time to do or die, my friend. And I vote do. Do the demon. That came out wrong. But if I didn't do something, I'd never find out what that picture of me, that Shogun had sent really meant. And on the off chance that FES wasn't connected to the demon girl, maybe I could ask her to help me fight against whoever the demon girl actually was.
だけどやっぱり無理だ。ライブなんて行けるわけがない。
I'd never been to one in my life. That sort of thing was infinitely beyond my comfort zone. Not to mention concert halls were cramped, and dark, and noisy, and crowded. Just imagining a place like that made me want to hurl. Then I'd just bring your barf bag and deal with it, my friend. I was at my wit's end. I had no idea what to do. And look on the bright side. In case you run into any trouble at the concert and someone tries to cut your face off or something, like you're fearing, you'll have a perfectly good fresh barf bag ready to throw right at their face to blind them while you make your daring escape. It's like the next best thing to a smoke grenade. The chills on the back of my neck still hadn't gone away, and the painful prickling sensation suddenly turned into a burning one. I looked behind me yet again, but like always, nobody was there.
もうやめてよ。
I closed my eyes tightly, focusing on nothing other than waiting for the gaze to disappear. I didn't want to go through this torment for the rest of my life. For all I knew, the gaze would straight up kill me someday.
考えろ、匠。僕にできることを考えろ。
You know, I think I'm going to go ahead and end things here. Because I'm assuming we're still looking at things from Takumi's perspective, and we're about to attend one of FES's concerts. In which case, that scene could in itself probably take a decent while, and it's almost been 2 hours at this point, so yeah, I think this is a good enough spot to end things for now. At least we have a lead on where we can investigate some of the precognitive powers we've been hearing about lately, and that's through this band. And I think we already have seen FES. What I am definitely curious about is if FES has precognitive powers, and based on what little information we have and what I've seen, I'm willing to entertain that possibility. Does she know who Takumi is? Like what the pink-haired girl, like how the pink-haired girl seemed to recognize him? And if that's the case, then would FES know Takumi also through precognitive powers? Takumi has never met any of these people before. So if it's not precognitive powers that allows anyone to recognize him despite never having met him before, like the pink-haired girl, and again, I'm assuming that FES might know who Takumi is too, also through precognition. I don't know that for sure yet, obviously. We haven't met. Then how many other people know who he is? The mystery is definitely starting to get thicker. More questions are being raised. But at the very least, like I said, we at least have some kind of possible lead to go on now that could at least allow us to get started in properly looking into this stuff. Although I guess we could always just talk to Yua again. But I don't really think that Takumi would be on board with that unless absolutely necessary. So I mean, I guess we're going to be going to a music concert in the next episode and seeing what that trip will end up revealing to us. At any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Chaos Head Noah. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel and feel free to hit that like button as it helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you all next time. Take care.